Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today, I'm going to be taking a look at the latest two volumes of Blacksad. This is a two-part, I think, story that ends with this one, I believe. This is called They All Fall Down, Part 1 and Part 2. Part 2 just came out. That's what kicked off this whole re-exploration of Blacksad. I've read a lot of them, and I've had a couple of them that I hadn't read, but all kind of out of order and never all at once. So it's nice to kind of really blow through them and read them all at once. Really, especially enjoyed seeing the improvement of the art, which is crazy to think because Juanjo Guarnido starts so good in the first volume, but compared to what he does with color in these later volumes and what I've seen in the previous two volumes, especially the Amarillo volume where he's allowed to go on a road trip, he continues to get better and better and better as a colorist. And then the real improvement I see is in Juan Diaz Canales' writing between the first volume, which is just kind of a basic noir story, to the really clumsy, ham-fisted political stuff in the second two stories, to like the back to the more basic crime noir stuff in the last couple volumes, getting better and better with characterization. Then in this two volume set, I think we finally got to the point that I was talking about in the first video I made of volumes 2 and 3, where I was saying that the political stuff was ham-fisted and that there was this opportunity to do a like David Simon-like story, thinking The Wire, Treme, whatever that other one about the porn industry in New York was. Like David Simon to me is the pinnacle of ensemble writing and my favorite television writer of all time. And it felt like these books had that potential. And in this story, the They All Fall Down two-part story, I really feel like the writing hits that potential finally, where the political stuff is behind the personal stuff, and no one's a total bad guy, no one's a total good guy. There's a lot of people with a lot of different motivations and a lot of different powers and forces at play, and it just seems a richer, more mature understanding of how the world works in these volumes. So really, really enjoy these volumes for both the art and the writing. I'll try and give a summary of it all without giving any major spoilers. So you see it starts here with, again, an amazing crowd scene where Juanjo Guarnido is just leaving, no expense spared to make each panel look as good as it can. They're out watching Shakespeare in the park, so you see Blacksad and his buddy here that they ripped off for that Zootopia movie, but this guy goes by the name Weekly, and they're out watching Shakespeare. This is a Shakespeare company run by this llama lady here, Iris Allen, and that kind of gets you involved in the politics. And in this case, the politics is like in that more David Simon sense, where you have wealthy donors, you have actual people like mayors and police chiefs who are actual political actors, you have the detectives, the police, the people in the city. You get to know a lot of different people in this. Here, Blacksad's going to meet a transport union rep. So this is Kenneth Clark, I think, that he's going to meet, but he's meeting a union worker rep, so you've got that as part of the story as well. While Blacksad is talking to this union rep, he has hurt his hand earlier in the story, and so he's wrapping it. I really like the drawing here of this awkward handshake where the union leader guy is holding something, and so they have to do like the same side handshake. Those little type of storytelling moments and attention to detail like that, and then the ability to render like an awkward position that you wouldn't normally see, shows how thoughtful of a storyteller Guarnido is and how powerful an illustrator and cartoonist he is. Actually, reading more about this, Juan Canales Diaz, sorry, is also a cartoonist. Both of the writer and the artist are both artists, and they met each other working for an animation company. And then one of them is married to a cartoonist as well. So you can see how that kind of writing team where either person could do the drawing is going to lead to these like really fluid animated type of moments like that. So you see their background coming to play here, and you start to realize that people have that kind of training are really where the powerful drawing skills are at these days. In terms of getting an education, it seems like that's probably one of the best ways to go still. And you meet one of the other really important power players here, which is this Solomon character. He's a businessman, obviously a bit of a hawk, a bit of a shady guy, but gets a lot of stuff done and hides behind that aspect of himself, but really egomaniacal, and is using his resources to build this, I think it's a pay bridge probably, but doing this big construction, erecting himself a big symbol of his power. He has an assassin on the books that he's holding in place because he's got power over him. His son's got polio, and here you can see that character where he's going in to see his son have polio. So there's like these historical, not even political ramifications, but like real world ramifications on the political scene at the time. There's obviously a lot of research being done about what the forces that would have been facing the city at the time, the city of New York at the time, would have been, in the same way that the David Simon shows feel really heavily researched. Really heavily researched the drug problem in Baltimore, really heavily research all of the resources problems in New Orleans after Katrina for Treme. That's what this book feels like, and really brings that full potential of what Blacksad could be. It reaches that potential finally. And captures, I feel like the earlier books captured like, oh, Nazis are bad. In this one, because it has that more wide view, you're able to capture a lot of other things and make a more nuanced world. Like here you can tap into like the misogyny of the time real quick by just having the one gross guy do like a grab ass moment, instead of making a whole volume that's just all about that. Showing this more overall view where a lot of people are doing good things and a lot of people are doing bad things. Just the type of storytelling I really appreciate. I also really like anytime they go to like a big shaggy hippie guy. It's always like a bison or some kind of big shaggy cow. That cracks me up multiple times, including the Greenberg Ginsburg character. Really, really nice effect here in the art, where Guarnido drops the line work for a character that's in the foreground, does it kind of light, and creates a foggy out of focus look right there. Seeing someone still developing, you can see in these, even though we're inside and we have a more earth tone color palette, there's still more color in there. There's more variety of color than some of the early volumes, which do stay more monochrome. You can see that in the Amarillo book and in the one dealing with New Orleans, that Guarnido continued to push color and got more comfortable with more saturated colors. And so that shows up all throughout, I think, the books, and makes the art even better than it already was, which is a crazy thing to see and say. There's also in the writing now moments where like I actually want to quote the writing, which isn't something that was earlier in these volumes. So that's showing Diaz-Canal is improving as a writer. Here, this is something that I've always felt like my whole life. It says the individualist always stands out like a sore thumb. I've always felt like that. Like I was always getting in trouble on accident just because what made sense to me doesn't make sense to anyone else. And that's what ultimately these stories are about. Is Blacksad is the competent outsider, the typical. I guess a lot of noir has the incompetent outsider being competent, but he's a competent outsider in all of these systems, and that works best in this format of story in these third ones, in these volumes here. There's a really, really awesome storytelling mislead moment right here, where Blacksad asks this Iris character to go out and get a coffee, and he says, or no, she tells him, it's fine, I know a bar that's nearby. And then the next panel is Edward Hopper's really famous Nighthawks scene. And so it's like, oh, it's a funny little scene as they're doing like this regional Chicago painter image, sorry, it would have been of New York, putting like a little coffee store there. Then they pull back out and you see this monkey as the bartender. And that to me, I think, is a really, really fun mislead because you're taking advantage of people's knowledge to be like, oh, I'm clever, I got the joke, like they went to the Nighthawks bar, and then you add one other level of clever on top of it to subvert them thinking they already got the joke. Really, really, really clever storytelling right there. And then this is kind of a spoilerly thing, but at the end of it, the love interest that had developed in earlier books, Alma, comes back and is, of course, going to complicate things. Really, at this point, what they're trying to solve is there's a murder that happened that's at the center of all of this. Political machinations to get a theater built in the park is the overall theme of the story, with Iris being at the center of it. And that carries over into the second volume. So in the second volume, the Alma character has come back and is actually filling Iris's role in the play, or the lead of the play that Iris was putting on. And you jump more into, I would guess, the meat of the mystery of the story here. You can see as they're getting ready to do the dig on the theater, preparing the ground for it, they find some bones, and that opens up the murder mystery. Like the first volume sets up all the characters, all their motivations, who's trying to get what and why. And then the second volume really plays the story out from there. So this is the one where I'll be a little bit more careful. Plus, this is the one that just came out, so people have had more time to read the volume one. So I'll be more careful with spoilers in this. But that's the thrust of it. There's a murder mystery that's tied up with all of everyone trying to get their bridge built, their theater built, who's got the zoning rights, those kind of political machinations. Obviously, in the background, we've got the story about this character who has polio and is trapped in an iron lung. There's a really stylistically beautiful moment in the story where Blacksad goes to meet this character, and this character's been painting with just painting a brush and holding it in his mouth or his beak the whole time. And you see that these are very much done in the style of Van Gogh. I'm not sure how Guarnido did this, but it looks like this was done with watercolor and oil pastels, or watercolor and gouache or something. I don't think these are done totally in watercolor. That would be very hard to pull that look off the way it looks here in watercolor. So it's nice to see in a book that has a really kind of set tone and palette and approach, that for emotional and stylistic reasons in the story, like metaphorical reasons, you play with style. And to see Guarnido be so good at it and really allow him to get those richer colors as well. You almost want to see a whole book done in this style now, because it's really, really beautiful. And seeing him apply it to, like, here's the Solomon character done in a different style rather than the pen and ink and watercolor. Showing that this is an artist that started at the peak of his game and is still improving is really, really impressive throughout. Just some more shout out to like the beautiful stuff going on in the art. Like this handling of these lights glowing in the dark here, done all in watercolor, like that is stunning. I had to draw that building once for Strange Death, and I know like how frustrating it is to draw even one scene of New York. To do it all in color like this is astonishing to me. And then to get not only all of the details, but to get some of the atmospheric effects like this, where you've got this snowy, blustery, foggy night and the light coming down here from the cars, and this all just kind of evaporating up into the gray is so well handled. Just absolutely stunning stuff there. And then another look here at Guarnido really getting to play with color in a way that hasn't happened in some of the earlier volumes. This big shot here that's like the thematic, it's not the end of the book, but it gives the reason for the title. In the end, they all fall down, you know, talking about the themes of all these people striving, trying to leave their name, mark their name on the earth through their accomplishments or whatever. In the end, they all fall down. And that's where, like I keep saying, this one had, I think, a way of approaching the political stuff, the power game stuff that came from the personal and the motivations of the personal and the successes and failures of multiple characters. There's not bad guys and good guys so much as people who have all kinds of different motivations that are clashing and are doing bad and good things and hoping for bad and good things. So really, 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 as much as I've enjoyed all of the Blacksad books and as much as the art has stunned me throughout all of them, the combination of the increasingly impeccable talent shown in the art and then the improvement in the writing throughout this. I'm happy, easy to say that this All Fall Down story is my favorite Blacksad so far. So, I hope they keep making more because it just keeps getting better and better. And truly some of the best comics going right now, I think. It's just astonishing stuff.